Welcome to the December edition of North St. Paul Notes. I'm your host, Paul Anderson. Coming up in the next half hour, we're going to learn about the crime prevention programs and the benefits of Neighborhood Crime Watch in North St. Paul. We'll also meet a new member of the North St. Paul Police Department. Stay tuned, North St. Paul Notes is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to the December edition of North St. Paul Notes. We hope this show will keep you up to date on the news and events that are of interest to the residents of North St. Paul. Today we're going to learn about crime prevention and the benefits of Neighborhood Crime Watch. Later in the show we'll also chat with a new member of the North St. Paul Police Department. With me in the studio now is Captain Dustin Nikituk from the North St. Paul Police Department, and Melissa Schoenecker, who is the Tower Park Neighborhood Watch co-captain. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
In thinking about the program, I was looking in some of my notes on history in North St. Paul, and North St. Paul was founded in 1887, and 2 years after that, I found a note which was actually the first reference to a need for police protection in North St. Paul. And this is from the North St. Paul Sentinel, the newspaper at that time. The note or the column said, "The Sentinel desires to inform the Consul that a horde of hungry tramps, beggars, and rag pickers almost daily visit the homes of those who live about the village, frightening the inmates," and they refer to the North St. Paul residents as inmates, which I thought was peculiar, by hanging about the premises. His last comment was, "Our homes as well as our business places need protection." Well, wow. At the time, there were 2 elected constables, I believe, and there was also a marshal. But apparently they felt there was need for more. So wow. Things have changed quite a bit since those days, of course. And recently, I know, Dustin, that the police numbers were down in the number of officers. How does it stand at this point?
Well, at this point, we're doing considerably well. We did lose some officers several months back. We're still trying to fill those remaining positions, but we have a lot of good new officers hired. Mm-hmm. They're doing great. They're off of field training, and it's a great thing for North St. Paul with our crime prevention and our neighborhood watch captains. It really helps us, especially if we're down in numbers. It's extra eyes and ears that we have in the community, and that they really help us out a lot too.
Sure.
So,
okay.
But we're doing good.
That's great. Yeah. So things have picked up from
a
few months back when you were running short.
Yep. We have a lot of new officers and new faces for the citizens to get to know, mm-hmm. and they're all out in the neighborhoods working hard and doing a good job.
Okay, in a later segment, we're going to meet one of those new officers. So, yep. Melissa, you've been the block captain or co-captain of the Tower Park group, I believe.
Correct.
And how long has that been, or tell us about that?
Well, we started about 10 years ago, and what was happening in North St. Paul at that time in our quadrant of the city was a lot of vandalism. So mm-hmm. there was Tower Park, there's playground equipment there, and there was, it was probably teenagers, but there was a lot of spray painting, graffiti, mm-hmm. kind of scattered throughout our area. And so one of our neighbors contacted the police department and actually kind of kicked this whole thing off, and mm-hmm. we met. There was probably 50 people or so in attendance in that very first meeting, and that's where we kind of learned about the Neighborhood Watch program. And then we just kind of took it from there, and we thought, we could have a big picnic and just encourage people to get to know each other, and that could be a place to start and just build on that energy of just taking back our city and letting people know that we're not going to tolerate it. We want to live here, we want to raise our kids here, and that's not tolerated.
Right.
So that's how it started.
Okay, and I remember attending a couple of those events that when you had the big picnics, and I was impressed at the time with the number of people that turned out.
Yeah,
so,
we've had, I think a couple of the picnics we had in excess of 350 people coming, and you know, everybody brings a dish to pass, and you always walk away knowing a couple more people than you knew when you got there, and that's kind of the
part of the idea is to get to know your neighbors, and
absolutely.
And it's easy for people to just sit in their house and
especially when things are going on. It's easy to isolate yourself and say, you know, we're going to shut our drapes, we're going to lock our doors, and we're just going to stay in our house. And that's probably not the best approach.
Right. And I know that you had a personal experience with your own family recently.
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Sure. I have a 16-year-old son, and he was walking home from basketball practice. It was 9 p.m. and it was right after the daylight saving, so it was pretty dark at 9 o'clock. And he crossed 11th Avenue, and out of nowhere he was pushed down to the ground, and he had his backpack on.
This was a group of people?
There was 2 to 3 men. It happened, he said, I think the thing that scared him so much, he wasn't physically hurt. They kicked him a couple of times. They tried to remove his backpack, and they weren't successful. But what he said was he couldn't believe how fast it happened. I think in your head, especially when you're 16, you kind of have a plan, and you think, oh, if somebody tries something, I'm going to do this and that. And he was just shocked that, you know, he was walking, he was on the ground, and then he was running home. You know, it just all happened within seconds, and yeah, it startled him, definitely. It startled all of us, yes.
Pretty frightening
We were very grateful that he wasn't hurt.
Sure, that's right.
Yeah.
And I imagine, Dustin, this is the kind of thing that's very difficult to trace and to find the culprits in a situation like that.
Yeah, these quick crimes opportunities sometimes are tough to get, but if we can get some descriptions and that type of thing, and then with Melissa, you know, she's one of the great things about the block club. They're right just past 11th Avenue, where her area kind of is. They have a great email tree and an email network with hundreds,
probably
100 names and contacts of all people that live right there, so they can immediately, if we need help getting descriptions out or figuring out who did what, we can immediately contact our block club captains and have them send it out on the email tree and try to get some descriptions or be prepared or tips on what they can do to prepare themselves.
And this email tree is not just the neighborhood, not just the Tower Park area, but it's
no, it's
because I know I got copies of that, or I got the emails on that situation. So,
sure. And over the years, you know, I mean, honestly, even through this watch group, I've gained a lot of friendships.
Sure.
Both in our area and then, you know, over by Silver Lake. I know they've had some incidents, so those folks, I have some friends over there, so they sent me emails and I captured those email addresses, and you know, so it's just, yeah, it's just really trying to keep people in the loop on what's happening, and, you know, encouraging folks to keep their eyes and ears open, and, you know, call 911, because that's really, these guys can't be everywhere, especially if they're a little bit down on numbers, and even if they're fully staffed. I mean, they can't be everywhere all the time, and and the big thing about our group is we know our pattern. So if I see a red truck that I've never seen before and it's driving around the block 4 or 5 times, you know, every day for a couple of days, notice that stuff, and, you know, maybe send out an email or give these guys a call and just let them know, because that's just really what this group does. It's just the communication piece is key.
Well, so these are some of the benefits of having the neighborhood watch groups. Is there anything else that you can mention that, other than this, there's a social part of it, but also just keeping people aware? It's
that awareness, and quite frankly, I mean, you know, I work full time, so I can't really dedicate maybe as much time as other people can to this, but the police department is very open to anything. I mean, heck, if you wanted to have, we've organized bike safety in the spring where they come out and they'll look at the kids' helmets and give the kids safety tips on riding bikes, or you could have self-defense class. They'll come out and look at your property and make sure that, you know, you don't have secret spots where folks could hide and easily get access to your house. There's lots of programs and things just being integrated with the police department and having that good open relationship that has come out of this.
And I think the recent burglaries, there have been a number, but I don't know if it's been concentrated in a certain part of town or...
Yep. Mainly in the north part of town, and I think we just had a town hall meeting on this about a month ago.
I think you've had a couple of those, haven't you? I think my wife attended one, and,
okay.
Yeah, at least two that I remember.
And I think some of the great, the positive thing that comes out of that is, we're really able to connect with the community in a time of, time of tragedy where people's stuff is getting broken into and homes are getting burglarized. It's a way for us to, come together as a community and brainstorm and figure out a way how we protect our community.
Sure.
So,
are these burglaries now generally, are they happening when people are away from their homes?
There's two different types. Our cold burglaries, which are the pry type burglaries where nobody's home at the time. And then there's some...
You say pry because
like
they're...
prying
open the door.
Prying open a door, kicking it, or stealing stuff when nobody's home. And then we have the ones that are the active burglaries where we actually have somebody inside the home. And it was more towards the warmer weather, the summer months when people were... when we had that warm spell in October when people's lower level windows were open and they were cutting the screens and basically trying to steal crimes of opportunity, stealing stuff that was visible, items, valuable items that were set on the counters or the living room, purses, where they could see things from the window and just grabbing them.
But that has to be pretty frightening for the residents.
Very frightening, very concerning, yes.
Oh, you bet, yeah. And you can't tell people to confront anybody in that situation, and many times I suppose they don't even know what's happening.
Correct, until it's too late.
Yeah.
And then some of the things that we've developed as a police department, we're doing a home security check, so you can call our office, 651-747-2406, and set up an appointment with one of our officers. Will come out free of charge. Take a security assessment of your property, look for such things as lighting, look at your windows, landscaping, that type of thing, just trying to make your home a little bit more secure.
Give suggestions that people can take too.
Yep, and it's free of charge, so it's a great thing to do.
It sounds like a good idea. And I know that the awareness of something, of burglaries and crime in general is much greater because of the recent burglaries and the fact that the word is getting out through those emails and
social media.
And social, that's right.
Social media is really
too.
changing the landscape of communication.
Yeah, it sure is. And that's...
and I think as a police department, we've really tried to focus on being transparent and getting that information out to the community so they know.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's really a positive thing that's happening. Yeah. How many neighborhood watch groups do we have currently?
We've approximately between 14 and 16. And they vary on their activities. We have some really active ones and some ones that are formed but not very active. About 14 to 16 in the city.
And there's room for more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're always looking to form more groups, and after the first of the year, we're going to roll out a new program where our officers will be assigned to specific areas of the city, and we'll put that on a big city map and put it out on our website, and that way citizens will have access to emails and that type of thing, so they can get a hold of their local officer, basically.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming out today, and the weather isn't exactly great.
It's Minnesota.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I appreciate your coming on the program, and I'm going to let Melissa go now because we're going to be interviewing a new officer with the police department. Great. So Dustin is going to stay in place. But Melissa Schoenecker, I appreciate your coming on
Thank
the
you
program.
very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We'll be right back with another part of the program.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere will bring us wireless emergency alerts. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to North St. Paul Notes. Captain Nikituk is still with us, and he's joined by a new member of the police department, Officer Amber Decory. So welcome to you, Amber, and
Thank you,
Dustin.
sir.
Welcome back. I know that in the previous segment we mentioned something about being down a number of officers, and I guess Amber is an example of one of the new people that came on board. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how that came about?
Yeah, well, anytime, when we're down in numbers, it's a long, arduous testing process to become a police officer. They do the written test, and then they have to do several rounds of oral interviews. And one of our new hires is Officer Decory over here, a great young officer. Doing a great job with the city, and very outgoing, quick learner, and we're lucky to have her.
Sure. Okay. So. And Amber, how has the experience been for you so far?
It's been great. I started in June,
okay.
And so I'm off of the training portion of it, and by myself right now, and working with the other officers and asking questions and learning every day. So it's been a really great experience.
Do you deal with a mentor, or do you have any kind of a mentoring system with the department?
Well, typically the mentors are the field training officers. They
okay.
spend several weeks to a month or two with certain field training officers, and just to learn the day-to-day processes and all the policies and procedures and of the city and of the police department. So
during that time, are the officers with the
yep, the whole entire time.
New recruits?
Yep, until they feel adequate, comfortable that the new recruit can function and be safe and do all those things and be on their own, and then they graduate from the program, and then they're kind of on their own.
So, Amber, can you tell us a little bit about your past experience? You didn't come into this without any experience, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I worked about 10 years in nonprofit organizations and with Ramsey County, a little bit with their welfare system and some with some shelters. And then I was also working as a cadet officer in the West Metro area for about 7 months prior to being hired on at North St. Paul.
Okay, so you've had some experiences in other places too, which I'm sure makes a big difference in how things go for you as a new recruit.
Yeah.
And there are 4 other new members of the
we got
force.
four other officers, all off field training. And Officer Decory here is also very outgoing. She's when we get calls in from citizens about home checks, which again we provide free of service.
Right.
She does a lot of those. Just volunteers and picks up a lot of those and goes out to the homes and does the crime prevention security checks and yeah.
So it's a new experience, but a good one so far.
Yeah, every day is definitely challenging, but I enjoy it. And actually, Captain Nikituk was one of my FTOs, so I rode with him, or he rode with me for about a month.
Okay.
So yeah, the experiences that I've had, they're priceless, and the organization has been great, and I'm excited every day to come in and work for North St. Paul. So
great. Okay. I know you had mentioned previously something about a proposal called officer zoning. Is that is that a new program, or is it something that is operating now?
You know, we had it previously in the past, but since we had some turnover within the agency, we're going to revamp the program and roll it out here after the first of the year. Essentially, we're going to divide the city into a number of different quadrants, and it's all going to be on the police website as well as the police Facebook page. Each officer will be assigned a specific area, and they'll respond. They'll basically handle crimes and complaints, citizen issues, residential issues in their specific areas. So really what it does is give some ownership to the police officer for that specific area, and really allows the citizens to get to know them, really get to know their own personal officer, basically. So if they're having an issue with a neighbor or something, they can pick up the phone and contact the police department or send an email to the officer, and the officer will handle that specific complaint. If it's a non-emergency, of course, you should still call 911 if you have an emergency. But
Right.
if it's a non-emergency issue and you would like your officer to follow up, that would be the officer assigned to your area.
Makes
So-
the officers more accessible, I think, to the
So
community.
You see it as an advantage or a,
Oh,
as
yes,
a
absolutely.
positive thing.
Absolutely.
I know that because of the burglaries lately that have happened in North St. Paul, there's been much more awareness of the need for this kind of protection or some additional protections. And do you have any idea? You had mentioned before the program where officers come in and they evaluate your home and determine whether or not you need to make some changes in your home to make it more secure. Are there other things that the
Sure.
department does that that helps the homeowner, and in addition to coming to the house and looking at what you have?
Yep, we also have a free program that our reserve unit, that our police reserve unit, who drive around in a marked police cruiser, who are volunteers within our agency. They also do home vacation checks. So if a citizen out there in the city of North St. Paul is going away for a while, or maybe going somewhere for the winter, or going on vacation for a few days to a week, whatever it is, they come into the police department to fill out a sheet at the front counter.
There's a form that they have to fill out to
Correct.
get this done.
Yep, form at the front counter tells basically just some information, the key holder, who has access to your house, when you're going to be gone, when you're coming back. And then our police reserve unit will get that form and do random house checks. So they'll basically go to your home, walk around, check your doors and windows, make sure everything is secure while you're away. Because sometimes, you know, if people leave for months on end and they don't tell anybody, sometimes their homes get burglarized and they come back to you know, their home being empty, or if, you know, chaos, or if a window gets broken or something like that. It's always nice to have extra eyes and ears out on that home.
So with that too, you think it's a good idea for people who are going to leave for a while to let their neighbors know too?
Oh, absolutely, and that's the big thing with Neighborhood Watch, is getting
Sure.
to know your neighbors, taking the anonymity away from criminals, and yeah, tell your neighbors who, you know, get to know your neighbors, who's coming and going from my property. This is my daughter, this is her red car, she's over here all the time. So if a neighbor sees a different colored car, hey, there might be a problem there. Just for that neighbor to take that extra special look and say, hey, something's not right here, I'm looking out for my neighbor.
Or just simple things like removing your newspaper. A lot of times people go out of town for a long period of time and forget that newspaper starts to pile up. That's an indicator for somebody who's maybe watching the home, or
That's a giveaway.
Lights that aren't going off, the lights stay on the whole entire time, or sometimes your neighbors
packages.
packages. Have your neighbor come and pick the package up or pick your paper up, and they can give it to you when you come back off vacation. But those are, you definitely sharing information with your neighbors is important. So.
Right. And I noticed that recently in the news there's been situations where people get a delivery from one of the delivery services, and it's left at the door because nobody answers the door, and the people are gone during the day.
Yeah.
And somebody seems to be following those delivery guys.
Yep.
And has that been a situation in North
I
St.
think
Paul
we've
also?
had one or two of those.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's just a crime of opportunity. You almost have to be there at that specific moment. But
That's right.
it will help reduce it if, you know, if somebody sees you're getting a lot of packages and they're sitting out on your doorstep.
Yeah.
If, you know, you bring them packages in, or you tell your neighbor, or some relative that can grab them.
I've
Get a
seen
buddy
that
system.
happen.
Yeah.
So, pardon me?
You can get a buddy system with neighbors, so
Right.
you know you can just say this is who. If I'm gone, here are my hours. If you see these packages, you see mail coming up, go ahead and grab it. But a lot of times I see neighborhoods where they'll do buddy systems with a neighbor across the street or your direct neighbor. So.
Right. It seems like a easy thing for criminals to do, and it's unfortunate that they just leave packages out like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an answer to that problem or not. It just,
I don't know.
it's hard.
It's a tough deal, yeah.
It sure is. Anything else that you can suggest that might be try to avert situations?
You know,
like
just
that?
if the citizens have any questions out there, just give our agency a call. We're a very transparent place of business, so give us a call, 651-747-2406, and they'll, front office is real good about forwarding it to myself or some of the other officers, and we'll get right on any questions or home security checks or vacation checks or anything like that.
I noticed another thing that I had always wondered about was when people call the department, police department, there was a non-emergency line, or is there still? And then sometimes I think I've used that number, and then I've just been told, well, I call 911. What's the difference, or what?
You know,
what
numbers.
should people do?
You know, the basic thing is just to call 911. If you need an officer to respond, you call 911. That's what we recommend, and that way it goes straight to the dispatcher. You're not getting routed through any other lines. Dispatching automatically recorded right away, and you'll get an officer right out to the scene.
So there's a record kept from
Absolutely.
that process.
Every time, every call, there's records and phone records, and yep.
And then the 911, I know a few years ago when they first switched over from Maplewood to the Ramsey County program, there were some difficulties. Is that program working pretty well
You
now?
know, I haven't heard of anybody having any issues right now. 911 will go straight to our dispatch, and they'll get a North St. Paul squad. It's area located, so they'll get it right out there quick.
Okay. And generally, I can remember the days in North St. Paul when there was, I remember the policeman, this is back in the 50s, now that's a little before your time, I know. But anyway, I remember the policeman was on duty until about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then for about 2 or 3 hours, there was no policeman on duty.
Really? Wow.
That was an interesting situation. Not that there wasn't crime happening at that time, but they just were not staffed well enough to have
sure.
it. But in North St. Paul now, that's not the situation, of course.
Right, yeah, we're 24-hour staff, multiple officers on around the clock.
Yeah.
I know in some outlying communities they still do that.
That's possible too,
yeah.
sure.
They go out of service and turn it over to the sheriff's office or something back in the day, you know. So.
Well, it's interesting to talk to you, Amber, and to find out a little more about how the department works. I know that Dustin will be back again someday, because he likes to have the exposure on the television, but and he'll probably drag you in at some later date
I like
too.
to tell her last minute.
Yeah,
so
just don't tell her until a couple of
It's part
hours.
of the training process.
Yeah, no, that's what it
I want to
is.
get the next recruit. I'm going to tell them 10 minutes before and come down here.
Well, thanks to both of you for
Thank
being
you.
on.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
And we've been talking to Dustin Nikituk, Captain Dustin Nikituk, and Officer Amber Decory. And so we are out of time on this month's show, but join us again next month when we'll bring you more news about North St. Paul. Just one other announcement I wanted to make, and that was regarding a holiday hop that's coming up in North St. Paul on Saturday, December 13th. So there's quite a few events taking place at that time. So you can always go to the North St. Paul City Hall website, and you can get that information about the holiday hop on December 13th. I'm Paul Anderson, speaking for everyone at the City of North St. Paul. Thank you for watching.